Hello and welcome. Thank you for visiting my channel and watching my video. So today's video, I'm riding a 2013 Triumph Daytona 675R. Very special bike. Actually swapped bikes for a short while with the rider behind me, who owns this one. Yep. As I said, this is a very special bike. I've always thought it's one of the bikes I've always wanted to ride at some point. If I were young, this would probably be on my list of bikes to consider purchasing. But anyway, it's a transverse 3-cylinder engine, 4-stroke, double overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder, 6-speed liquid cooled, fuel injection, forced air induction, and a slipper clutch. It puts out 128 horsepower at 12,500 RPM. Its maximum torque is 55 pounds per square foot, or 74 newton meters at 11,900 RPM. It has an aluminium twin spar frame and an aluminium swing arm with adjustable pivot position. The front suspension is Ohlins. It's a 43mm NIX 30 inverted fork. It's adjustable for preload, rebound and compression damping with 4.7 inches or 120mm of travel. The rear suspension is also Ohlins. It's TTX 36 twin tube monoshock, adjustable for preload, rebound and compression damping with 5.2 inches or 133mm of travel. 17-inch wheels front and rear, cast aluminium. The tires are 120 in the front and a 180 in the rear. Seat height is 32.3 inches or 820mm. Its weight is 406 pounds wet, or 184 kilograms. It's only 3 pounds heavier than my MT-07. Dry weight is 368 pounds, or 167 kilograms. Fuel capacity is 17.5 liters, 3.8 gallons, or in American, 4.6 US gallons. Top speed is 165 miles per hour for this R version, which is faster than the non-R version, or 266 kilometers an hour. And acceleration is 0 to 60 or miles per hour, or 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.2 seconds. So that's the basic stats on the bike. So let's start out with first impressions. First impression, it's very uncomfortable, similar to the Yamaha R6 that I tested last time. This bike is similarly uncompromising and very committed. I feel it's even, I'll have to check, but it feels even maybe a little bit more uncomfortable for me as far as the rear sets. My heels definitely feel quite high. My weight's down on my wrists again, very heavy. As I'd mentioned in my previous video, I'm an old codger and I've got lots of physical aches and pains, so I do find sport bikes extremely uncomfortable, if not outright painful to ride. But having said that, I do enjoy them. This bike is similar to the R6 in my mind. It has that same precise feeling. This is actually the same road I rode the R6 up. Switchbacks pretty much all the way. It's a mountain road. It's fairly steep. The corners are quite acute, so they're slow speed corners rather than high speed corners. And like the R6, I also think this bike would excel more at the high speed corners. Not to say that it's not doing well at this, it is. I'm going to turn around here again because of the gravel. So this mountain is over 3,000 feet, but as you can see, it turns to gravel. If we had dirt bikes, we could still keep going. Alright, back down the hill we go. So I generally find on these sport bikes going downhill is worse than going uphill. I'm usually in quite a bit of pain in any event, being so crouched and with so much weight on my wrist, but you have even more weight on your wrist coming down such a steep slope. But the bike is agile, it changes direction very quickly, very easily. It's very smooth. I've actually ridden two other Triumph triples, 765 street triples in this case, which share the same frame and engine with slightly bigger capacity. So this bike isn't entirely new to me for that reason, but it definitely does feel even a little bit more premium than I rode the RS version of the street triple and the R, and this feels just a little bit more lively. But those bikes were excellent as well. You know, they were two of the nicest bikes I've ridden, and so is this. Now the owner of this bike is actually an 18-year-old teenager. This isn't what I would have thought would be an appropriate choice for such a young rider, but he does have a background in racing motocross, and so what I've noticed riding behind him is he himself is quite a precise rider, so he seems to be doing all right with it. I'm sure he's not feeling any of the aches and pains that I get. I would have loved to have had a bike like this when I was 18. I was not raised in Canada, and I learned to ride under a tiered licensing scheme. So when we were 16 years old, we were limited to 50 cc's. When we turned 18, we were able to move up to 125, 150 cc's. And this bike is a world away from any of the bikes that I would have had access to when I was his age. So I'm somewhat envious. Can't go back in time, unfortunately, and unfortunately I also cannot feel like I did when I was 18, so another thing I like about this bike is it is absolutely gorgeous. A lot of newer sport bikes, I'm not really happy with the looks. I find some of these earlier generations the aesthetics were a little bit more appealing than what I'm seeing in a lot of newer bikes. Hopefully you're getting glimpses of the view on the way down here. It's absolutely spectacular. I'm going to guess the young fellow back there is not as impressed with the accessories as it were on that bike. So my bike is a MT-07. If you've ever ridden an MT-07, it's a lot of fun, but it is basic. So you don't have a lot of the niceties you have on this bike. The brakes on this bike, if I recall correctly, were Brembos. They have much more feel, and they're much stronger than what I have. The suspension is really nice. The frame is very stiff. On the MT-07 I'm used to a certain amount of wobble, and it's rather unsteady on the edge of the tire, but this bike tracks through a corner like it's on the proverbial rails. It really holds a line. Alright, now we're coming to the bottom of the mountain. We'll just pull over a second. Coal Mining Museum. Alright, now we're just going to jump on the highway. And get an idea of how the bike handles at speed, which I fully expect will be excellent. Like the R6, the Daytona 675 has a very well-earned reputation for outstanding handling. Popular choice as a track bike. One difference I noticed between this bike and the R6, although there are some similarities, the engine has much more mid-range. You have useful power lower down in the power band. It's still a bit of a, a big hit, I guess. Somewhere probably around, I'd have to look at the dyno scale, but I'm going to guess somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 RPM. It does, definitely get a big hit of extra power, but nonetheless, it does have a pretty strong mid-range. Not as broad and not as strong low down as in the CP2 engine on my bike, but it still is nice. It's a more flexible and useful engine despite the high performance. Alright, we're coming to the end of this video, pulling in to a coffee shop here, which is a favourite for motorcyclists. So, question would be, as always, would I buy this bike? And if I would say if I was 22, then without a doubt I would buy it, assuming I had the money. But again, being an old codger, lots of aches and pains, it's not really a suitable bike for myself. But I do very much like it. Thank you for watching my video. Hopefully you'll be back again. Please subscribe if you feel inclined. I'll be trying to add more content more frequently over the next year, so hopefully I'll make it worth your while to come back again, and hopefully the quality of my videos will improve over time. Thank you again.